Welcome to Autonomy's Do It Live podcast. My name is Jerry, and I am doing it live. I have done this 3 times on my own, and I have co-hosted twice for Nick Hayes, and he did an incredible job last week. I want to do the same. I want to just raise the bar as high as he did. And I want this to be an interactive Do It Live. This is the podcast with the least amount of pressure in existence. And I see Nick is here, and I would love your cooperation. And I'm sure Michael is going to participate, which is amazing.
Yeah, hello everybody.
Hey. And yeah, if you guys want to speak up, feel free to talk.
Hey, I did it last year and had a great time. You go for it.
Yeah. Great.
Hey, Jerry.
So,
good to see you.
Good to see you too, Michael.
I know we're going to have a good time.
Oh, yeah. So, Nick, I know last week we were talking about ways that we could improve the Do It Live, at least. Do you want to talk about that?
Yeah, so I mean, I've done Do It Live 3 times now, and I think the #1 rule is to definitely get prepared ahead of time as much as possible. So my shows have gone better when I've put some time in to pick out and find some good clips from the week to queue up and present and talk about and hopefully get some discussion going. And then the second thing was having a co-host. Jerry, for my last 2, you were the co-host, so I sent the links over to you, and I was like, okay, dude, this is what I want to show. Here are the timestamps, and then I checked in with you before we started. Have you got the tabs open, and are they in the right order, and these kind of things. So really, that pre-show prep is what's going to make the actual show run smoother. So I think that's a big part of it. And then secondly, it's kind of putting the word out there, inviting people. I think for my first Do It Live, I invited a season 5 student who doesn't hang around, doesn't participate so much because he's very busy and he's got a family and stuff. But I messaged him ahead of time. I said, "Are you free on Saturday? Can you please join? Because it'd be good to have you there. And we're now colleagues and we work together. So putting the word out, inviting people who you'd like to hear from, and that could include people who are teaching courses during the week, or people whose sessions you've attended, or people who you've had interviews with or been practicing role plays or integration exercises. So yeah, for me, it's kind of like a bit of forward planning goes a long way, and then that makes the ride a lot smoother when you're in the thick of it and you're staring down the lens of a camera, and it's the recording light is flashing from the top side of the screen, and all that. The heat is on and all the good stuff starts happening. So that would be my top advice.
Yeah, Nick, you're a big inspiration to me. And I know you've said that whenever you chime in, you're glad you did, whether that's the lectures or the Do It Live. And I'm glad you're here. And I hope you stick it out for the entire Do It Live. The goal
That's my
is
plan. That's my intention.
Awesome, man. So I know you were talking to Richard last night in the Friday Night Live Q&A. Do you want to talk a little bit about how that went?
Sure, yeah. And for me, it was this morning. So yeah, Saturday for me, Saturday mornings during the autonomy season, I get out of bed on a Saturday morning like a kid on Christmas morning, because I know the lecture is running. and I know that I can catch, if the back end of the lecture, and then we're straight into Q&A. And Richard this season has a really nice lighting setup for his studio, which is looking really swish in there. But yeah, I jump out of bed. I got up at 6, brewed some coffee, put my earplugs in, and then I had a little back and forth with Chris about being, because I wasn't a, there's two modes. You can be a viewer, or you can be a participant, and then you can be, I forget the name of the two. Anyway, I had to message Chris McMillan, who was shadow hosting, and say, hey, can you take me over to the other side where I can ask a question, which he did. And so, but then I was kind of like, do I want to come off mute? Do I want to ask my question? Do I want to leave more space for the new students, because it's really their show, it's their season, it's the first season, and as far as I'm concerned, I want them to be prioritized, because it's that first hurdle. But I waited until there was a bit of space, and then I think Richard opened the floor, and I think I counted about 4 or 5 seconds, and once I got up to that, I was like, right, I'm going in. And and then I just came off mute, and I spoke. And yeah, and I wanted to ask about, I wanted to get some insight on the project that I'm working on at the moment, which is book reviews. I have amassed a sizable collection of books, and I'm getting these books, and I'm trying to make book reviews. And I wanted to get some insight on the process of creating high value content, which is the way that we learn in autonomy to build trust with our audience in order to have a better chance of successfully transacting with them when we make our offer to the marketplace. It's largely about building up trust over the long term, and you do that by giving away valuable things, and that could be in the form of blog, it could be an ebook, it could be your time if you're a consultant or a counselor or something. You can give a free 1 hour of your service. My plan is to kind of go for people who don't have time to read lots of books, or maybe they don't have access to the books, and give them a way to know about the information that's stored within them. Because a quote that I came across recently that I thought was very good was, the best place to hide truth is in the pages of a book. And I think that's very true in these days. Not a lot of people are into the books and the reading, and it's kind of quickly becoming a lost art form, a lost habit. And so that's what I wanted to ask Richard about. And he gave me great insight. He made me aware of a documentary with the authors of the book that I'm currently reading, and I wasn't aware of that. He said, oh yeah, I know that book, and those two guys who wrote that book, they're in this documentary, and I'm in the documentary as well.
What's the name
So the
of
documentary is, the book is Hidden History: The Secret Origins of the First World War. It's quite a tome.
I'm gonna have to buy that.
I think this is one of the best books I ever read, and I'm probably not even halfway through it yet. But it is so meticulously referenced and researched. This whole part of the book that I just have hold of there, that's all references and bibliography and index and footnotes. So that's a good quarter of the book, I would say, of just backing up what they're saying. So it's an amazing book. It's a pretty good deal as well. It wasn't too expensive. But these guys, James Corbett made a documentary about the contents of this book, and he interviewed the guys who wrote this, as well as Richard. And then that prompted Richard to remember that he had planned to interview these guys, and that was a project that he had forgotten about, and he said he would just kind of reignite that and get that done. So yeah, to circle back and make a long answer kind of to round it off, I've never regretted coming off mute and contributing. And in this case, it reminded Richard of to do something, or to pick up something that I'd really like to see, which is him interviewing the guys who wrote this book, which I'm currently really loving. So yes, once again, I came off mute and I contributed, got some fantastic value, didn't regret it. And then it's just a good way. And then from my point of view, it's a good way to start the day. because then I'm kind of like feeling like I've done something, I've achieved something, I've triggered a bit of complexity for myself. And if you get that done at the start of the day, then the rest of the day is a lot more enjoyable and easier and smoother. So yeah, a good experience for me.
I love it, Nick. And Michael, you always contribute. How are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Jerry. You know, as usual, it's always a beautiful day in Acapulco, so you know, I've always got that in my back pocket. But you know, certainly it's been a really great week. You know, getting back into the kind of the swing of being in season is always fun, and man, I'm telling you, season 8 is already turning into quite an event. I don't know. Can you hear me? All right. I just want to make sure I'm all right. Good. Yeah, because you know, I think we've never had a class this big, and it's super diverse. Man, there's just a lot of people coming from all different places and perspectives. You know, I'm certainly I try and meet as many of the students as possible and kind of get an idea of where they're going, what they want, what's interesting to them, and you know, I think I've had I don't know, I think I've probably met about uh, let's say somewhere between 12 and 15 at this point of the new students so far, where I've been able to engage with them, and you know, I'm floored by the you know the enthusiasm, the excitement, the interesting stories that you know where people are coming from, what they're interested in, that kind of stuff. And then of course you know we've already had like an entrepreneur spotlight. We already got you know we're in the second week of Jay Dyer and his philosophy course. You know Daryl is just closing out his mental and emotional kung fu this week. So man, there's just been a lot going on, and you know, kind of in this. This is the thing about like being in autonomy and every season having to like go through this stuff again because it's like another shot at doing it again, you know. So just like everybody else, I'm trying to you know get my inbox cleaned out, you know, and get everything in order. It, it's been a bit of a rough week in that regard, but nevertheless, you know, we made it through the week, and I'm a lot closer to where I wanted to be than where I was at the beginning of the week. So I'm happy about that.
This is your 7th season going through autonomy.
Yeah, and you know, at this point, like the amount of times I've been through the course, because I did a stint on the question team, so we like not only did we, you know, like we wrote the questions for the next season, which I think was season 3 or season 4. So whatever the season was before, we reviewed that season again. And so, you know, I've essentially been through it one more time. And then this season, I'm working with the media relations team, and we're kind of reviewing the, you know, previous seasons kind of delivery, and then what ads we can make and what things can we you know introduce. And so you know usually Monday or Tuesday morning I'm watching last year's presentation of this week's uh, you know delivery, and man I still can't get enough of this stuff, man. I mean it's there's just so many good things. And you know Richard mentioned, and I think it was Ben that was in the Q&A on Friday last week. You know, he was talking about, you know, he was making some kind of presentation to a client or something like that, and he said he had hired one of his friends as kind of the sales manager, and he said he read every single thing on the website, you know, so he knew every single thing about the company. And I thought, that's what I'm going to do. I'm going to go through every single thing that, that's on the Kajabi. And so, I've never done that yet, So that was another thing that I've been doing this week. And I'm telling you, there is so much gold, just so much good stuff within this course, and so many things for so many people in so many different ways. It's almost infinite, the amount of stuff, and I just I reviewed John Taylor Gatto, The Ultimate History Lesson, and I just got through the first hour, and I started going, and I was like, man, I'm going to write down every single bombshell that that John Taylor Gatto mentions, in that interview with Richard. And I just got through the first hour, and there was 25 bombshells of things that are like, that is not what they told me. And there's 5 hours of it, So, and of course, every one of those bombshells is like a reference to a book, to a person, to a point in history, and it's just, it's like, it's just another potential rabbit hole. But again, these are the things that make autonomy great is it's, these things are driven by interest. So, if like what Nick was just mentioning, hey, I'm doing this thing on World War One. Oh man, I read this book about World War One, and now I can, when Nick does his thing, I can say, hey man, here's something does that book mention anything about this particular situation that happened? I heard this tape. It was an interview of the deposed. What do they call a king in Germany? They don't call him a king. They call him a
Kaiser.
Kaiser. Yeah. So yeah, there's an interview of the Kaiser in about 1924, and he's talking about how Germany got into World War One. I don't know if you've ever seen that or heard that interview, but it's definitely worth a look. And I don't know if they mentioned that in that book, but there was definitely some deception going on about how they had to steer these entities into getting into World War One. But it's just one example of like how each of us, when we pursue our interest, it spurs other people to bring information to the table, and next thing you know, you've got this salad of information that's just amazing.
Bless
So
you.
I'll stop there, but it's an exciting season, to say the least.
I'm really interested in the origins of Germany entering World War One. I would love to hear some about that. But yeah, I mean, do you think you can touch on that, or is that too what do you call it? Too hot?
Just as a quick, where I would point is James Corbett's kind of documentary. I think it's a 2-part series. I'm not sure, maybe 3, of World War One. I don't know what they called it, but I know Richard contributed to it.
I think it's called the World War One Conspiracy, and that's the documentary that Richard and I talked about on the Q&A this morning, which also features the writers Jerry and Jim. And I haven't seen that yet, so that's going to be something that I sit down to check out. But that, I think, if you don't want to flick through 500 pages or listen to me, then Corbett is definitely, he's got to be the #1 stop for this thing. And I've heard it mentioned so many times, and I have it downloaded on a hard drive, and I just haven't got around to watching it. But after reading this book, there's another one, Lord Milner's Second War, which is a very important book on this subject, which I haven't read yet. It's much thinner, but the documentary is definitely the place to go.
Yeah, well, I'll just say one more thing about World War One, and that is that like half the countries in the world's lines, their borders, were drawn after World War One was over. The Middle East, Africa, the Far East, Southeast Asia. Quite a few of those places you know, those were all colonies of Britain and France and the Netherlands and I don't know, Portugal, and you know, so there's but like, you know, all the things that happen in the 20th century essentially stem from World War One, and you know, certainly the trouble that we've got going on in the Middle East these days has got a lot to do with these, you know, how these borders were drawn and how that all came about after World War One was over. And of course, you know, the Federal Reserve and you know, the fiat money system and the Bank of International Settlements. I mean, Jesus.
Yeah, Michael, you strike me as a person who would want to join the One Nation Under Black Male book club that season 8 Maddie put together. Just my 2 cents.
All right. Well, I think I've got an interview with her later today, so I will definitely touch base with her on that.
My copies of One Nation Under Black Male arrived today. I'm extremely excited to dig into that. But I was just flicking through and looking at the lists of references that she's put in there, and it is insane. I mean, each chapter has 20, 30, 40, 50 plus references, hyperlinks to websites, books, page numbers. This is, I mean, I'm glad she's out of the country. Let's put it that way. But it's certainly a piece of work she's done that I think will be, I'm extremely proud and happy to have a first edition. And very excited that Maddie set up this book club, and even more excited that the pace they're going to work through it is doable. I think they were talking about 2 chapters every 2 weeks, which, you know, for a book this dense, I think is very sensible, and I'm sure there'll be a lot of interesting conversations. And for anybody interested in that, there's a little Discord group, and the meetings are, I think, every other Friday, starting on the 11th of November, I think. I think that's correct. But so yeah, anybody interested in that, shoot a message to Maddie, aka Space Jelly.
All right, so I want to share my screen and talk about fun things in the forum. Let's get into it.
That's a good name for a segment on Do It Live, man. Fun things in the forum.
Yeah. Let's see. The best thing is, can you guys see my screen? All right.
Yep.
Cool. All right. I like the trending posts. So this one, looking for experience. I think this one's pretty cool because it has to do with LD putting together a course where the Autonomy Media Group is challenging us autonomizers to do media challenges that has to do with video editing. And there's a list around here. So I'm gonna go to the home page. But essentially it's creating an intro and an outro and slowing down the tempo of the video and messing around with transitions. And yeah, I'm very excited for LD to drop his course because we are at war right now. I mean, the media the propaganda is everywhere right now. So I am taking the How to Become the True Media course by Mark Passio. But let me not get too distracted. Let me go over this post right here, weekly challenge video. See what this is about. Wow, voiceover. Introducing a weekly editing challenge inspired to try new techniques when producing video. Use whatever tools you have available and share how you did it with your final version. This is really cool. I might do this today. So yeah, I'm gonna make me a note and make myself accountable. What is this? Come to the Twitter office with day and
Welcome to a day in my life as a Twitter employee. So this past week went to SF for the first time at a Twitter office, badged
Can you guys hear that?
Yes.
All right.
in. Honestly, took a moment to just soak everything in. What a blessing. Also started my morning off with an iced matcha from the perch. Then I had a meeting, so quickly scheduled one of these little pod rooms, which were so cool. They're literally noise canceling. Took my meeting, got ready for lunch. Look how delicious this food looks. Oh my goodness, I was so overwhelmed. Then made my way down to this log cabin area. I don't know what this is, but it was really cool. Played some foosball with my friends to kind of unwind a bit. Also found this really cool meditation room that I thought was super neat. I didn't do any yoga, but they have this yoga room if you are a yogi, so also thought that was really cool. Had a couple more meetings in the afternoon, had a ton of projects that we needed to knock out. Say hey to my teammates. Went to the library to kind of get some more work done. Obviously had to have our afternoon coffee, so made some espresso. And then before leaving for the day, had some red wine that's on tap. Went up to the rooftop and just honestly enjoyed the beautiful weather. So awesome trip.
Boy, do I love cornhole. But I just thought about the media group from this week, and Cody was saying if he did a day in the life in autonomy, he would be filming himself being on the chair all day in front of the computer. I thought that was pretty funny. So if anybody wants to help out with letting me know what post to share that was pretty fun, please do so. And if not, I'll be looking around here. This is cool that people are dropping their interviews on the forum. I want to check them out just to learn from others doing their interviews. And let's see, Nick posted a couple forum posts. I haven't checked those out, but let's check this one out. To background or not to background? Hello, my question is about backgrounds when making videos of ourselves or participating in live chats, interviews, podcasts, etc. What are people's thoughts on the importance of, or lack thereof, of taking care to organize and present your background? In my opinion, I believe the light is important. How about using digital backgrounds, blurred backgrounds? Yeah, maybe if you get like a green, what do you call it? One of those green backgrounds, and then you can change your background to Acapulco, for example. How about using digital backgrounds, blurred backgrounds, or just the natural warts and all background of a living room, study, etc.? I like that. What situations suit which options? What are the ramifications of the different options in terms of doing online business, making content, and generally interacting with the online world? Man,
I got some good comments actually for this one, really quick. And it's one of the great things about the forum and about asking these kind of questions is that you can get good feedback and good input on the question you ask very, very quickly. And you can see right there that if you scroll down a little bit to the picture, Joshua put a screenshot up of JP Sears as an example of the background there. And I mean, yeah, compared to my background that I have right now, which is just a cluttered living room full of boxes and random objects, I think this was a great example with the blue and the red on each side. He's kind of evoking balance. He's evoking the two-party system. You know, we have the same thing in England as you guys have in the States, a blue team and a red team, Pepsi and Coke. And I like the fact that he's sort of including both, showing that he belongs to neither and that he's doing something else. He's kind of holding both of them under equal scrutiny, I suppose. And the other tip that I got from asking that question was to slightly blur the background so that people aren't looking over your shoulder to see, you know, what you've got in the corner of your room, or to read the names of the books on your shelves, as happened in a Q&A recently. Actually, Richard was looking at the bookshelves of a student and picking out the Rothschild books, I believe it was. And so, yeah, I asked this question today, I got the answers and some good input within, I think, an hour or so. And so that's just to say thanks and a shout out to Jill and Joshua for jumping in and helping me out with that. As you can see, I haven't acted on the advice and the input yet, but it's certainly food for thought and something that I'm going to work on before the next time I host Do It Live, I think.
Yeah, you're one step closer to doing what it is that you were seeking to do from asking these questions. And honestly, I didn't even think about the left and the right wing paradigm that you mentioned just now. That was amazing that you mentioned that. And yeah, I think the whole blurring the background, if you practice video editing, then I would know in an instant how to do that. So that way I can protect privacy, things I don't want other people to see, and so on and so forth. Yeah, Josh always posts some cool stuff. Let's check this one.
Where's that sound coming from? The zigga zigga. What is that sound? Sound.
We have to close some apps out. Almost there.
Nice. Check out the luminescent tie. That is badass. It matches the colors on the decks.
Yeah, even the lamp matched with the red lights. Man, that was very inspiring to step up on video editing game. Kara and Van's, I'm not even gonna say that. I don't want to say it wrong. Van, how are you doing?
I think he's here. Maybe he can tell us how to
Yeah.
say that. I thought I saw him here.
Yeah.
Hey Jerry, hey guys, loving the show this morning. Loving how natural you are, Jerry, and you're just, yeah, you've come along so far. I'm really admiring it, and difficult circumstances, and you're just like taking it in your stride, rolling with the punches. So really inspiring, mate. Yeah. It's actually pronounced fun sale, but it's just I just go Van, so it's easier for everyone.
I never
Yeah,
would have guessed. I would have gone Zyle, I think.
Zil.
Yeah, all good.
Yeah, Van, you have been in a lot of the meetings that I have been in. You're very active. You're one of the most active season 8 students that I've seen so far. I think you're gonna do big things in life.
Jerry,
So-
he's like the you of season 8.
Man, that's what I was saying.
Yeah.
So I just want to let you know, Van, that first of all, I'm bad with names, so I forgot already how to say your middle name. Van Zil, right? So
That's perfect, Jerry.
yeah, as you can see, this is the least pressure podcast ever, and you're gonna have support. So yes, I was hella nervous my first time I hosted this. I was like meditating before just so I could calm my nerves down, but now I'm just like, I really genuinely enjoy hearing from each and one of you, and no matter what post I share with you guys, I know there's going to be some value with it, and I'm gonna have my own opinions. We each have our own opinions. I think this group isn't a cult. I mean, because this group is based on principles such as no masters, no slaves, treat each other with excellence, and what other? These are important questions. anyways, right now, I'm more concerned about my parents next to me, just watching me kind of do this hosting, but it's cool. We're gonna work through the kinks, and I am waiting for Richard to come. If he doesn't, that's fine. But I know the good stuff comes after this, after the podcast ends. And yeah, we can talk about the mental and emotional kung fu. So I know, Nick, you go from the start of the week to the end of the week. I can do the reverse. So, I mean, we covered a little bit of the Friday Night Live lectures. I want to give you guys an opportunity to speak up and talk about what you learned, if there's anything you want to share with others listening to this replay, and with people not even in this community that are going to hear this clip down in the future. So I'm going to give you guys a couple seconds.
Jerry, I actually this morning I woke up at like 3 o'clock, and I find that's when I do my most productive work, because I didn't get to listen to all the Q&A last night, but there was a section where Richard spoke to I forgot his name now. Was it Peter? He's got his website is similar to the Judge Duke, Peter Duke, I think. Yes, was that? I think that was Peter Duke. And LD shared an article with me about project management, and that Peter wrote on LinkedIn. And I was busy reading that this morning, and I thought I would summarize the article and maybe, put it on the forum, maybe to save people some time. But when I was reading it, it suddenly just dawned on me. I had this aha moment that everything, and I mean, this is up for discussion, but for me, everything in autonomy is all about problem sharing. It comes down to problem sharing, and entrepreneurism is all about problem sharing. So it was kind of a nice insight for me to realize that. And I love problems and puzzles and solving problems. So yeah, that's what I'm really excited about. That's like a theme that I've kind of picked up on, my short journey in autonomy. So I was curious if you guys had any thoughts on that, or if I'm on the right track or not.
Problem solving, I started in season 5 and found that is the way to leverage almost everything. That in my normal job, or in the job that I had, that problem solving came at it as really listening to people and then finding a number of solutions. And autonomy gave me that so that I could move on from that particular situation that I was in after COVID to in a freer situation that I'm in now, just by listening and then asking the questions of how I might solve the problems that I'm facing as well. Whether there's a retreat, whether there's a retrenching, or whether there's something that I need to change, because you cannot change other people. They want to change, you can help them change, but sometimes you have to change yourself. And by asking questions and problem solving that way, you move forward.
Yeah. And I also had a nice insight about problems, because problems in this article that I was reading defines a problem as just unmet needs, which I thought was also a nice insight. So yeah, all problems are just unmet needs of people waiting to be solved. And that kind of also speaks to the book Nonviolent Communication, which is all about meeting people's needs. And if you truly, once you distill anything down to its core need of people, and you understand them and people are able to communicate them, then it's an easy problem to solve. So yeah, all these things are just coming together for me. So yeah, thanks for that, Adrian.
Yeah, and what you're getting is a classical education. Now, I received that in college, way back in the 70s and 80s. And autonomy is a way to do classical education without teaching everybody Latin or Greek or all the rules of logic and rhetoric that are in the Socratic method. It's a way of having people pick that up themselves, because unmet needs, yeah, you're absolutely right, we see them as problems because we think there's something to solve or to fix. A lot of times it's just, how do we get what we want, need, or how does that other person fulfill something in their life?
Exactly right. Yeah.
I would just add, there's a couple other things there. One of the other ways you might describe problem solving is problem sourcing, and like looking at, you know, what are the things that lead to the situation that you have. And then there's another resource that we're introduced to in Kajabi and David Allen, Getting Things Done. He basically says, you know, that there are no problems, there are no solutions, there's only unclarified projects. You know, and so, like, in a lot of ways, a lot of the problems that we have are just things that we're not defining, we're not communicating all the things, we're not understanding the situation, and you know, there's confusion or there's misunderstanding, there's all these different things. And of course, you know, like with the getting things done thing, it's about getting yourself to the present moment, instead of cluttering your mind up with all these different things that are going on in your life, getting rid of all those things, putting them in their proper place, and then being present in the moment to deal with whatever needs to be dealt with. And you know, this is another thing about autonomy, is this, you know, as you learn more things, you have access to more resources, you know, and when you learn more things about what people can bring to the table, instead of you having to figure out everything, it's just about like pointing people with certain needs to other people that have the things that they need, you know. So this is another thing about autonomy, that like as we, you know, mature and get to know each other better, the easier it is to deal with problems and you know, things that come up in our lives. Because you know, Jerry, you were talking about mental and emotional kung fu. This past week, it was, you know, kind of the summation of the course, and we just went through a couple different problems, and you know, each of the problems that people came up with, I identified with. You know, it's like, man, this is my life that we're talking about, you know. But like a lot of the problems that we're dealing with, because of this homogenization of society, these are problems that they've basically given to all of us. So like us going through the problems together, it's like, you know, it's like we're just multiplying the experience that we have, that we can bring to the table when it comes to, you know, dealing with the issues that life bring and, you know, and put in front of us.
I'd jump in as well, and off the back of that, and say that you have no idea how valuable it is to talk about your problems, and even if you haven't fixed them, just to share them and say, I'm trying to do this and I got so far with it, and then I fell off, and now I haven't gone back to it. And just being so open and upfront. And I'll give an example. I mentioned in a meeting something that I'd been trying to do, and then I had a kind of stumbling, and I just mentioned it as an offhand comment, as a check-in, as part of the meeting. And then I had another student reach out to me later and ask about that comment that I put in as a throwaway comment, and the other student wanted to know more and get some insight, because they were having a similar issue. And they thought, because I mentioned it, that they would want some input from me. And then we agreed that we would stay in contact and support each other as we both handle this problem together. And so you just have no idea who's going to be sitting out there listening and going, I'm going through that, I need help with that. And so this is just to underline the value of being open and honest and sharing your problems. And I think that's another huge selling point for autonomy in the community, is that you can really bring anything that you're dealing with here, and it will be met and welcomed and embraced with compassion and encouragement and kindness and generosity. And I think that's just an overwhelmingly powerful thing to be part of. And you have no idea what other people are going through. And as you just said, Michael, with the Kung Fu lessons and the problems people brought, I had exactly the same experience of applying and resonating with every problem they brought in, and that other people mentioned. And then, you know, it's such a powerful way to realize that we're all human, we're all handling and dealing with a lot of the same issues and the same problems. And when you're part of that group of people who are extending the hand and saying, hey, come along, this is how I fixed it, it might work for you, that's really where just fantastic things can happen and great progress can be made on an individual and community and, you know, global level, really. So yes, share and talk about your problems, help other people fix theirs. That's really the root of it.
And what Michael was talking about, the networking aspect of autonomy, you know, it comes back to all these integration exercises, being able to speak and listen to people, because, you know, you're not going to solve any problems or meet people's needs if you're unable to talk to people. So yeah, it's all, you know, coming together. So yeah, I can't wait for what other integration exercises there is, because, you know, there's method in the madness.
Yeah, I'm curious to see your interview with Kara, Van. I can't promise I'm going to watch it though. I mean,
it's too much. There's so much.
There are too many interviews. I can't catch up with all of them either, but it's wonderful to see people recording them and sharing them. I think there's more people recording and sharing their interviews in this season than I have seen in any of the other seasons. So kudos to season 8 students. People are really putting effort in to share that value to the rest of the community, and it's wonderful to see.
And it's really nice that Cara opened her time to students, because I found out how busy she really is and how much she's taking on. So it's really cool to get some time with, you know, people like her.
Yeah, she's awesome. And I'm going to ask Jesse Collins if he wants to talk about his Qigong. Last night in the Friday Night Live lecture Q&A, he was the last person to speak to Richard, and he said that he does the Qigong practice every morning for about 10 minutes or so, or that was somebody else. Anyways.
Yeah, that was me. I was talking about Qigong.
Yeah, that stuck in my mind. So now I want to look into that, because it's supposed to balance me out, and it's good exercise, and I just keep hearing about it. So when will you drop this video on the forum?
Hopefully sooner than later. I guess I could try to give myself a deadline. I have to text my brother to see when he's available with his video recording gear. Kind of was thinking about it last night after the call. There's a nice park around here that actually has like a yin yang platform that you can practice on top of. I actually know the guy that built it. He used to be part of a Tai Chi group as well. He's even got like a drone. I could even maybe do some nice aerial views, but try not to get too involved, you know, not shoot for the perfection as they were talking about, just get something out there and then work from there. So yeah, I was also kind of thinking, I guess, kind of curious, you know, they talked a lot about copywriting. I do have like a lot of the videos from my master, or not the master, the teacher. Chung Jin Kai, who's passed away. I was kind of curious, from the group, what would be the typical practice? Like, could I show clips from that and not be necessarily infringing on copyright? Or I'm assuming, I could just do my own video and then that wouldn't be infringing at all, but I didn't know if it would be worthwhile or what's kosher or not for showing also, I could splice in clips of him as well.
Yeah, I say don't get copyrighted, but maybe you can copy what he did and just shoot the video yourself, post that.
Okay.
And if anybody else wants to chime in on this, I'm all ears too.
Yeah, I
I'm
was
not
also
sure, honestly.
just showing like a copy of the video, and then people can go get a copy. I can share a link. I don't know if you can order right now online, but I can also put whoever needs to in touch with Mon Yi, or he goes by Mark as his English name, but his son. I can always get a copy of the original videos from someone more formal than myself if someone's interested as well. So what they call the techniques that I'll probably go over, it's he calls it, like, the name of the DVD is the Universal Life Cultivating Methods. I think there's 11 steps in it. And basically it's something you can do regardless of age or health condition. You don't have to stand on one leg or anything like you do in some of the more advanced, like actual Tai Chi maneuvers that he teaches with the Chin style. So kind of like I'd mentioned in the post, it's just basic techniques to work on your energy. I mean, that's all what Qigong kind of translates to loosely in English, is energy work. So yeah, I mean, I could give you the long story or the short story. What do you want?
I want to hear the long story.
All right. So yeah, so I live here in Houston, Texas, and on the way to school for high school, I would drive from where I was living on the west side of town and kind of take the back streets over to Strake Jesuit. It's kind of part of like what's nowadays like Chinatown in Houston. So as I was driving to school in the mornings, I would see like this group of people doing these exercises out in the parking lot. And, I just didn't really notice it too much at first, but, it's just something as a habit. I drive to work and I always see these people out there, and occasionally I'd kind of look over and I'd notice, and I was like, man, there's some old people out there. And I was just kind of thinking to myself, I don't know what those people are doing, but they're definitely like older than the people in my family. They're, as old or older and in better shape. It's like, I don't know exactly what they're doing, but apparently it's working. It's like, I see these people out there every day. They're bending over, touching their toes and doing all this stuff. It's like, man, that's kind of interesting. So anyway, it stuck with me. So I went off to college up in Missouri, came back, started working the oil and gas. I was, just kind of talking to people that I work with, hey, I'd kind of like to learn, that thing that the Chinese, whatever deal they do when they exercise. And so I actually went to China for the first time and came back, and one of my coworkers asked if I'd learned anything about it. And I was like, no. And I was like, man, I had a chance to go over there and I didn't learn anything. So I started doing some research. That's when I came across that book online. It's called Qigong, The Secret of Youth. And it's like, I don't know, something techniques of bone marrow and brainwashing classics or something, which is kind of odd name. But I started reading that to see, what is this Chinese technique that people do. And I really liked that book because it had a pretty good layout to it, where it would show a copy of the original like Chinese text or characters. And then it would show like your typical translation. It might even have, I forget off the top of my head, but they've got like Chinese characters. There's pinyin, which is not even really a language. It's just putting semi-phonetically the way you would say it in Chinese into the alphabet, if you will, English alphabet or whatnot. And then, but then there would be like a paragraph of how that would loosely translate into English using just the translation techniques that were commonly done. But then there was like 5 or 6 at least paragraphs under that, like explaining like these are the characters, this is why it would translate into this word, but when you put this character next to that character, and this character is one that hasn't even been used in common language in so many thousands of years or whatever in China or in anyway. So he had a pretty good layout to it. He did have a preface to it, and so as I was reading the book, I was looking for a place to go and learn in person from someone. And somehow I came across this like a dojo map and I looked up in Houston, and the guy, Dr. Yuing Ming Young, had a dojo once upon a time in Houston, and I found where it was, and I was like, oh man, it's real close to me, but that was closed down years back before he moved up to Boston. And I forgot, he's got like a resort or something, kind of a nice kind of camp that you can go to. But anyway, he does more of he came from Taiwan and learned this as he got a little bit older and wrote the book on it, and is kind of interested in getting like a synergy between some of the traditional techniques and then the newer medicines and whatnot. So anyway, how I'm looking at this map, and then I see this other dojo on the map called the Chen Style Tai Chi Development Center. And I start looking at it, and I'm like, holy shit, this guy's got way more experience than the person whose book I'm reading. This guy's like from China, from the region that has like, I mean, because there's stories that they talk about in that book, like the old man from the mountain. But like, if you actually look up like Tai Chi, the oldest verifiable like document that has the character written for Tai Chi comes from the Chen family. It's like Chen Wangting. And it's got like a really interesting story. So I did a lot of research, and so I walked into this guy's office or into the dojo, and he's got a little office to the side. I'd gone a couple times. The first time I knocked on the wrong door, and then finally I got in the door, and I called a couple times, and he's like, yeah, I'm here, come see me. So I walk over there, and I'd been starting to learn about all this different stuff going on in the world. So I had like a lot of pent up energy. I was like, this is getting to like unhealthy levels. I need to find a way to have like a healthy release. So I'm sitting there in his chair, and I'm kind of like, hey, I've done some research. I want to learn Qigong. And he kind of looks at me and he smiles. And he gets up and he just touches me on the shoulder, kind of on his way to the other side. And it's like weird. Like as he touched me, I could almost like sense that like he could feel the energy in me. And he felt all that excess energy. And he goes, no problem, I can help you. And he goes over to his calendar and he points over at the wall, and it's got all this stuff written down in Chinese. And he goes, see all these? These are people who scheduled to do the Tai Chi massage. It's like they want to come for 30 minutes, and I go do the massage. I tell them all, you should come to the class to learn Tai Chi, and you won't have to have the massage, but they don't want to learn to help themselves. They would rather have the massage. It's very good that you want to learn to heal yourself, because I think when I said Qigong, because I want to learn to heal myself instead of asking for him to heal me, I was asking him to teach me how to heal myself, which he was really happy to hear. He had just gotten done doing like an induction ceremony. They had people come over from, or actually he just got done teaching them. I think after I met him, because I actually went to the ceremony where they had people come over from China, and like if you trained underneath them for 10 years, like you would get written in the book in like Chen Family Village as like a 13th level disciple of Chen style Tai Chi. But he had just gotten done teaching like a class, and he wanted to start like the next level. And so I was one of the first students after this 12th generation, the last one he just had the class go through. So I was one of the first kind of the new class, and he kind of taught me to be like an assistant teacher for him. And so I would participate in the classes. He would teach us all what to do, and then he would kind of, maybe go back, and then I would continue doing the move at the front of the class while he would go around and correct people's moves around and stuff. And it just, I kind of learned the techniques. That's actually how they would teach it back in the days, is in the Chen family, was they would have the different family members as they were growing up, and whoever kind of excelled, they would have that family member kind of be the lead student for that group. So it's a really cool experience, and that's kind of how I came to learn about it. Was just kind of roundabout, where I was actually in the area driving right by. So I mean, he has an amazing story, going way back to when he was a kid. So like, I mean, he had a heart condition and almost died. Like, I mean, he was as a kid, like something happened. He had a sore on his back, and like he was. I mean, because I mean, even like going back to Chin Family Village, which is an interesting story, and then like all the other stuff. So, which is kind of a really cool, and it goes into like history and everything. It's I don't know how far down you want me to go down tangents, but like, so in college, I had a friend of mine who, for one of our electives, besides the pyrotechnics course, which was one of my favorite, or probably my favorite elective course, but he liked Asian girls, so he convinced me. He was like, "Hey, I want to go take this Asian history course, but I don't want to be the only dude in there. Like I got to have a wingman." So he's like, "I'll take the Asian history course to be there with you." It was actually pretty cool because it was like one of the U.S. ambassadors to China, like during the 80s, for like an extended period of time, was the teacher, the lady that taught this class, and so she really knew her shit. And I got a really in-depth kind of history of Sun Yat-sen and Mao Zedong and the different evolutions that China's gone through and whatnot. I mean, not necessarily as in depth as some of the books, that Richard's got, but I did get a lot of the details. And so they've got that whole period with, stop me or.
No, I was going to ask if you've been to China.
Yeah, so I've been to China twice. The first time I went to Dalian, China, which is kind of across the bay from Beijing. And then the second time I went to Shenzhen, which is across from Hong Kong. And then I was in the shipyard. And on that time, I actually flew out and was on what I call the original offshore Chinese drilling vessel, Nanhai 2, which is like an old Aker 3-hole or something like that. Anyway, but yeah, that's I've been over there twice. So in between the first and the second time, I had done the research, met this guy, and started learning Tai Chi. And so by the second time I went over there and I went offshore onto this rig, I met, there was like, they've got an assistant driller and the lead driller. And so the assistant driller was this kind of younger guy who, I forget, it's like the Yantai Petroleum Institute or something. It's one of the colleges that a lot of the people in the CCP and all that go to. But anyway, he was actually a pretty cool guy. So I spoke English with him, and then the lead driller was a guy that was kind of ex-military, and he only spoke Chinese. And so at some point we had like a conversation, or we had several conversations, but it just kind of sitting in their office talking to the lead driller, but through the assistant driller. Anyway, talking about it. So he had learned from one of the Chin family members when he was in the military, but had only learned a portion of Chin style Tai Chi. And there's this whole story because the guy that was teaching the military class that he was in, one of his relatives passed away, and he'd put in the request to leave, but the military had denied his request, and he left anyway. So then they didn't let him return and continue teaching. But he had learned some of it, and he could tell that I was actually taught like the right style, the legitimate Chin style. And he kind of explained to me that, like, yeah, like if you're in China, you're going to pay like a ridiculous amount of money to have someone teach you Chin style Tai Chi. And they're not going to teach you the breathing techniques that I explained to him. And it's like, you're not going to learn that either. So anyway, there's like a whole, history of the Chin family village from like when it was started, which is a pretty interesting story. It was kind of, I think, between the Ming and the Qing dynasty. It was like a General Chen Wangting, and So usually, like when there's like a change of dynasty, like they get rid of all the generals and stuff from the previous dynasty because they'd already pledged allegiance to the previous family or whatnot. So it's pretty rare, but in this occasion, who knows exactly the reason? But anyway, the guy was so well respected or feared, one or the other or both, that the dynasty that took over when they won the final battle, that general was in a different location, and so they basically made a deal with Chen Wangting that if you disband your army and go back to your family village, you're free to live in peace, and we will not do the typical execution deal or whatnot. But you're not allowed to start an army, and you can't have any military presence. So this guy was like the head general of, like, at the time was the superpower of the day, and knew of like all the high level martial arts and also all the medicine techniques, Eastern medicine, all that stuff. And so there was like several generations of that family. I think he was like the 9th generation of the Qin clan, which in itself was like known for martial arts. It's really close actually in the region of China to the Shaolin monks in the Shaolin temple. And so, those, you see some pretty crazy videos with those. They got some fairly decent martial arts, but supposedly, like back in the day, they used to have competitions in the region, and the Qin family would always have first place. And so the Shaolin monks, to get first place, they finally started doing their tournaments, and they stopped inviting the Qin family. And that's how they would get first place. So anyway, they only taught it to family members. And with like that, there's a whole story with Liu Chen Yang and how he kind of went and was pretended not to know any martial arts, even though he had been trying to learn the highest martial arts of the land. It's starting learning, and from everyone's like, well, everyone knows that the best martial arts of the land is the Chen style, but it doesn't matter because they don't only teach it to family members anyway. So he tricked him, kind of, if you will, to learn a little bit. They eventually found out his background and said, all right, we're not going to teach you anything more, but you can't tell anyone where you learned any of this. That guy actually did really well, went on to be like the emperor's bodyguard. The royal family wanted to learn because, oh, you got this special martial art, can you teach it to us? So he taught the royal family a version of Tai Chi that was like kind of for like it didn't have the same martial arts background. It was more like just like an exercise that's something that the people in the royal family could do to kind of look or anyway. So that's where Yang style is. That's kind of the one that's been taught the most throughout the years, but arguably from the data or the research, the Chen style Tai Chi is the oldest version of Tai Chi, but it was the last version to be taught to the public. So like, fast forward, like, I don't know, 600-800 years after Chen Wangting, 12 different clan leaders since then or something that have carried this art on. You've got the Red Guard in China. Well, first of all, in China, they had like that 1 year where they were like, almost kind of like in here, make America great again, make China great again. And they recruited, all these people in China to advertise, what they did with their ancient cultures and techniques that were, good strengths for China or whatnot. But then, Mao Zedong kind of went through the whole list, and anything that would not be conducive to going along easily with the new way or whatnot. And then they had that purging that went right after that. So anyway, so that purging happened in the Qin village. As the story goes, that the Red Guard came to the village. The Qin family was good to its word, but they didn't raise an army. They weren't going to go against the leading rule of the day, but they weren't down with, I guess, the new thing. So what the Red Guard did was they took the leading members of the day up to the town square, and they chained boulders to their neck. And it took like a week or something until they were forced to bow to the new order of, I think that was Chen Mao Sen and the new kind of way there. So anyway, like the guy that was supposed to be the gatekeeper, then like on the way back home, after they are all bowed down, they untie the chains. They go, all right, you're free to go. And then the one guy tries to jump in a well and kill himself. He gets caught on a limb and almost freezes to death. They pull him up, but he's never the same man. Anyway, there's Chen Mao Sen is kind of like the second best guy or whatnot, and he's kind of like what I guess I don't know if I said in that little deal. He's like the last gatekeeper, if you will. That was one of the guys that ended up teaching Cheng Jinkai, the guy that I learned from. And so all this was like after all this whole, kind of, what Richard and all of us know were kind of co-opted by the whatever the Skull and Bones gang or whatnot. But the whole takeover of China and traditional Chinese culture and all this shit, it really took a blow in his village. So when Cheng Jinkai is like growing up, it went from being like one of the most the highest level martial arts village of the land to like almost like a place of poverty, because they didn't have a place in the new way. They weren't a linchpin in the system. So anyway, so they're living in poverty. He's born with this heart condition. He's got this sore, like he's basically like left like in this field of people that are like dying in misery. And there's like his grandmother comes and sees him every day and gives him some water or whatever, and tries to talk with him. And so there's this foreigner that comes into town, this kind of traveling doctor or whatever within China, and his grandmother brings him to go see her son, and he's kind of like, yeah, he's got this kind of condition. I can tell I don't have the surgery or I don't have any of the equipment to fix the heart condition, but I've got a little bit of salve I can put on this wound on the back of his back. So, flip him over, put this salve on his wound, and this is what I can do. And he moves on. So anyway, the wound heals on his back, and he's able to like kind of like get around, but he can't like really walk anywhere without getting like dizzy and like passing out and stuff. And so anyway, one of his brothers is, healthy and stuff, and he's playing around with all the kids and stuff, but he's learned a couple of moves from playing in the streets and stuff with the Chen family, little kids. And so he teaches him just the basic move of going up and down. It's kind of the one that kind of looks like you're doing the Frankenstein move, and then you go and you do a heel palm down. So he just teaches him that one move. And like this, he's just getting to where like he's might actually, make it or whatever. And so he practices this move going up and down. And he gains strength back enough that he can actually walk and go to school and start learning stuff. And so his dad liked it. He's like, wow, this is amazing. So he's like, what do you want to do with your life? This is so awesome. And he's like, I want to do more of this. And he does the move, the up and the down. I want to know what this is. This is like basically save my life. I want more of this. So he's like, all right, that's the Chen Tai Chi, which really they only teach to the Chen family. I know Chen Mao Sen. Let me go talk to him. And so apparently, in all this deal with the whole Red Garden, something I don't know, there was some kind of event where his dad had hid his father or hid Chen Mao Sen or what. Anyway. And so he had a good relationship with him, and he goes, hey, I've got my son, I thought he was going to die or whatnot. And he got better. It's because my other son had taught him this move, and I asked him what he wanted to do with his life. And he said he wanted to learn more of that. And I told him that, it's really only taught to family members. And so Chen Mao Sen is like, hey man, you saved my life. Like, I'll teach your son, but there's certain conditions. Because it was still like really private. So like Cheng Jinkai, as a little kid, had to walk outside of town to like the Chen family complex, and like there's like this road that you go down that had like been there for centuries, and like there'd been battles fought there, and warrior troops have been brought back and forth, and people were buried beside there. The ancestral worship, like I said, is from China. So throughout the ages, families had come back, tried to find their loved ones. There's all these like dug up bodies. So it's like this road with like all these holes and like skeletons. And so he's got to walk down this road at like 3 o'clock in the morning in like pitch black under like, moonlight or whatnot, to go to the Chin family village, because they will only teach him in the cover of darkness so that no one can see what they're teaching him. Seriously, like this is how he was taught from Chen Mao Sen, who like at the time, like Chen Mao Sen, like he taught him as best as he could, but like he had these issues because he was one of the guys that was brought up to the front of the village and had this boulder chained to his neck until he was 4. Anyway, so he had, ever since then, he'd had problems with his feet. So Cheng Jin Kai was like asking people around town. So he got like whatever, that he found some salve in town, and he was going like and massaging his feet and whatever, getting the calluses off. And like, so he's going over there at night, learning what he can, working on his master or whatnot, the teacher, and like his feet get better. And he's like, he gets Chen Mao Sen gets better at Tai Chi. He's like teaching this young student. He's like feeling awesome. He's like, all right. And that's like when he makes the decision. He's like, all right, we have to teach this to the world. If we only continue teaching this to the family members, it's going to get lost to the sands of time. So anyway, that's kind of the whole
Jesse, how much longer
short,
until this story finishes?
Yeah. And that's that. And then, I mean, the guy comes over in like 94, 96 to the US.
Hey, Jesse, how much longer until the end of the story?
We can wrap it up there. I mean, because I could talk about this for hours.
Yeah, I see you're very passionate, so I'm looking forward to this Tai Chi workout in the forum, the video you post. And if anybody else wants to chime in before we wrap it up, this is the time.
Well, I would just say that's a great example of kind of the expertise. I mean, here we just kind of open the floor to Jesse, and he just, he gives us this like unbelievable freaking story that, we can enter into through him. It's just, I mean, I'm excited about this. I had no interest at all in martial arts or anything along this line, but now I'm certainly interested. So Jesse, great job.
Sweet, yeah, happy to help.
Yes, that was super interesting. And I just want to thank Jerry for stepping in for me with my lack of preparation. And I would like to thank Nick for talking about how important preparation is for this. And I would like to offer the one thing I can do live without any preparation. And that would be about a minute of music.
Play us out.
Oh,
all
that's
right.
it. You want to play a song, Eric?
Sure. Can you all hear that?
Yep. Bravo.
So that was obviously Bach, Johann Sebastian Bach, a melody called Jesu Joy Cesaring. And that's my claim to fame for doing things live, as I'm a live musician. But thank you all for coming and for tolerating my lack of preparation.
Hey, I'm here for you, Eric.
We're looking forward to the next episode where you do.
Most excellent, nonetheless. Thanks.
Yeah, Jesse, I want to hear more of your story. If of the story, if there's any links that you can send me or to post in the forum, that would be great. And
Yeah, hit me
Yeah.
up for interviews, or there. I did drop a link in the class chat to the Chin Style Tai Chi website, and I think they still got some of those stories in there in the English section. Yeah.
perfect. All right, I'm going to wrap it up, guys. Here comes the outro. Music.
Ready, set, go.
Thank you all for attending. Much love.
Thank you.
Yeah. All the work, everyone. Thanks for all showing up and contributing.
Bravo.
Yeah, great job, guys. I thought this was uniquely its own production, man. It really came off well, I think.
Yeah, I saw you taking notes, Michael, at the end. So we learned something.
Absolutely.
All right, guys. I'll see you on the forum.
Well done, Jerry. Well, really well done, man.
All right, I'll see you, brother.
Here, everybody. Have a great rest of your weekend.
Yeah, see you all at Q&A tomorrow, I think. For me, 9:30 in
Yeah.
the evening now. So I'm going to get some shut eye. But good to see you all. I'll see you all soon.
Yeah, bye.
Peace.